everybody, Indy here. Welcome to another edition of Sled Shed TV. Today we're going to put in a new electric start kit from BRP in our E-Tech. It's not too hard, a lot of wiring, but other than that it's pretty simple. So come on back here to the workbench and we'll show you what they sent us. Okay, so here's what you're going to get from BRP when you order an electric start kit. First, you're going to get a nice booklet of instructions. Pretty thick, but half of it's in French and half of it's in English, so it ain't that bad. You're going to get your battery box and your hold down, your solenoid, the wiring harness, which we'll find out here when I get into this that some of them you need to use this and some of them you don't. If you don't need to use this, you're going to need this wire that goes to the battery. And I'm not sure about this one. We'll get into it. Your ground strap, your terminal covers, a nice assortment of nuts and bolts, your wire ties, your starter, and a battery. It's all going to come in the kit. Now, a couple of things before we get started. If you read the instruction manual, BRP wants you to totally take everything off the top of this sled. Windshield, lights, air silencer, everything. But from what I'm looking at, to make it a little bit simpler, all you have to do is pull your exhaust off, your muffler. You can leave your header on. We'll be able to get to that and I'll show you. And your doors. That's about it. That's about all you're going to have to take off. So I've already removed this because it's kind of time consuming. So I took all that stuff off first. So we'll get into it now. The first thing we'll do is we'll get the starter in. Now, step number one is we're going to feed the starter in through the muffler side. You're going to have your muffler removed. You're going to take your starter. And as you're going to see here, we're going to come in just like this and go across. And get our starter down in there. Okay, so as you can see, our starter's in, it's bolted up. I did use a little red thread locker on those just to be sure that they're not going to come out. And you can also see at the back of the starter motor now our shiny new bolt that goes into the engine block that holds the back of the starter on. So now we're going to start our wiring. Now the first wire we got to do is our starter wire, our main wire. And I did fish that down in behind the chain case where it's supposed to go, and it's going to come around. It's going to go through here and hook fast to the starter, and then they supply us with wire ties and hooks to keep it back away from the engine and away from the heat. So as you can see, our starter wire right here is now hooked up. It comes down in behind the motor mount, zippy tie, another zippy tie, another zippy tie. We got to clip these off, and it comes behind the chain case and comes back out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our battery box in. So this is our battery box. It's going to go in like this. This will shield the battery from your muffler. We also have this ground wire, which gets fastened right there. Now your battery box is in. Okay, so our solenoid's on, our battery strap is in, our battery is in, everything's solid. Now is the time that you need to decide whether you need this whole wiring harness or you need these two. And since, I'll show you these two little plugs here, we have these two little plugs, so we don't need this. All we need is this. What we'll do is we'll clip this little wire tie down here. Okay, we're going to bring these around. And these are going to go in each one of these. Right like that. And then it's going to plug into our solenoid. Well, what I have to do is they give us heat shrink tubing, so I'm going to have to heat shrink these, and then we can plug this in, and then we can rewrap this, retie it where, you know, our wires are going to be loose, not tight. So now we can take our wires, put them in there for now, and then I'll wrap them. Okay, so now that that's on, now we have to put this in. And this plugs into our fuse block here, and then we get to put our 30 amp fuse in here. So what I gotta do is I gotta pull this up, put the wire in behind it, and then we'll put the 30 amp fuse on, and then that goes directly to the battery post, the positive post. So we'll get this out of here. Like that. So now it's up in there. Bring this around. Put it right behind that, so it's out of the road. Right like that. Plug that back in. And we get our 30 amp fuse. Okay, so now our fuse is in. The next thing we have to do is, this is our solenoid jumper wire. This has to get disconnected. This will come out, and then this will get folded back in and wire tied in with these wires. Okay, so now all our wires are out of the way. What we need to do now is we're going to run our positive side, and we're going to coat all this stuff with dielectric grease. And then after that, we'll put our exhaust on, we'll hook up our negative side of the battery, and we'll see if it works. Okay, so our battery's in, our solenoid's all hooked up, our exhaust is on. Now we're going to try it. Flip the switch. Yeah, it works. All right, so the job's done. Now all we got to do is put our plastic back on. So that's it. Starter's in, works great. Now we need some snow. One word of caution, the bottom starter bolt. I would take the primary clutch out and then put that bolt in. I did it without taking the primary clutch out, and it was a nightmare. I didn't have a puller, so that's the way we had to do it. But I would recommend pulling that primary out to get to that bottom bolt. Other than that, the installation was easy, very easy. As far as wiring goes, just follow the instructions, very simple. Only takes you a few minutes. And the longest part is putting the solenoid on and getting all the wires hooked up. Other than that, very simple. So that's it for this week. If we don't see you before, we'll see you on the trail.